So if I am a hiring manager and I'm hiring entry level, let's say for a marketing position, and I've got first time, you're going to make new friends. Life is very.
Oh, the traffic.
That's Hello, everybody. Welcome to our second episode. This is the podcast hosted by students for students. We're called REND. Today, I'm here with Robyn. Thank you so much for being here. Also, my colleague Nectary is here as well.
Hi there.
It's just the two of us at the moment. And after we had our first podcast with Liz, which you can go see right after this episode, we invited Miss Storey. And please, Miss Storey, could you maybe introduce yourself for the people that don't know you?
Sure, absolutely. My name is Robynn Storey. I own a company called Storeyline Resumes. We've been in business for about 24 years. There's the dog. I've got a team of 70 folks here on board, and we have worked with about 300,000 clients through the years across the world. We specialize in resumes for more senior level folks and executive level people. And I think this probably still holds true. I think we're still the largest privately held executive resume rating firm in the United States. Our crew is, compiled of, former business executives. Our interviewers are former human resources, recruiting, headhunting executives, and our writers come from all kinds of backgrounds and walks of life. We're primarily based in the USA, and we work primarily with clients in North America and across Europe.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's been fun.
It's a mouthful.
It is.
So we have a couple of questions for you, and I'm gonna start with something that I think most of us are actually thinking as students is what does a resume actually look like? And for example, if you have some layouts you would recommend for a resume, what would those be?
Sure. I think that a resume is a very, very sort of personal experience. It's a personal document. Your resume doesn't have to be in black and white. It doesn't have to be plain. It doesn't have to be traditional in any sense of the imagination. I think that your resume ultimately is your story. It's your professional story of accomplishment, of interest, of skills. And ultimately, your resume has really one job and one job only. And that's to get people interested enough to pick up the phone and call you to interview you for a job or an internship or an opportunity that you want. So, when I first started out 24 years ago, resumes certainly looked one way. Very, very simple, very plain. But, in this day and age, we do all kinds of different designs and colors and approaches and features. We are sort of known for our storytelling approach, where we really get into the nitty gritty of who you are as a person as well as a professional. Keeping in mind, of course, that it's a resume and there are certain things that you want to include on there. But we've got all kinds of different layouts and colors and visuals and graphics. Ultimately, in a job search, the goal is to set yourself apart. And however it is that you want to do that, that reflects your personality, that reflects your vibe, that reflects your goal, you should do it. Whereas we were talking about earlier, you're a graphics guy, right? I wouldn't expect you to send me a resume that was boring or plain. I would expect you to send me a resume that you've created that shows me you're a graphics guy. So I think that holds true really for everyone. So you don't have to be held to any sort of certain layout or standard. Do what is right for you and reflects and tells your story. And I'll share some of our examples with you. I'll email those or message those over to you so you can see how we do it here. It's pretty different.
And actually, I'm curious, are there any colors, for example, that you would recommend? Because we know this thing about color psychology and how it can affect the human mind. And are there, for example, you can choose like any color? Are there colors that you think we shouldn't include? Maybe red because it's too assertive or something?
No, I don't really have a problem, including any sort of color or color combination on a resume. We tend to stay away from things that are specifically male or specifically female, because we don't, if I open your resume, I shouldn't know immediately, are you a girl or are you a boy, right? So we do things generalized in terms of colors and layouts. I tend to be a little bit more conservative. I don't want your layout of your resume to take away from the most important thing on your resume, which is really that content. But do I want to zhuzh it up a bit? Absolutely. Do we include things like, you know, quotes from third parties or little snippets of your performance review and presentation style on your resume? Absolutely. So we tend to stick with things like blues and grays and beiges. We do a little bit of green. We don't really use a whole lot of red or purples or things that might be considered sort of overly aggressive. You know, but they're definitely, when you look at them from an aesthetic perspective, much more interesting and much more eye-catching. And that's ultimately what you're trying to do, right? Catch somebody's eye. But we want to do it in a way that, you know, we're looking at it, hey, this is a professional communication. We want to kind of keep it that way.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, I'm curious about something. For example, would you say, I mean, this ties to another question. Do you think AI could be used someday to write resumes? Because as you said, it shows a lot of human touch, and it's a personal touch. It's something that's personal to every worker. So do you think people should use AI to write their resume? Would this become an option, a viable one?
There is definitely a use for AI in the development of a resume. But we're finding out a couple of things. You know, when AI first sort of came out and, you know, we played around with it just like everybody else in the world, looking, how can we make this more effective for our customers? How can we create or integrate some of these AI tools to develop a resume that seems or feels like it would be, you know, more successful, more able to get through the applicant tracking system, you know, more able to make it easy for people to customize their resumes. And we found out that AI wasn't really effective for that. We in our business, it's Storyline Resumes, our approach has always been very personalized, right? So very much around the story, the uniqueness, the individual skill set, the experiences that make you, you, don't apply to the guy next to you, right? So when we're working with a client, the first thing they do is go through an interview with one of our interview team members, where we're really drilling down and having them tell us stories about accomplishments. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, that you were a salesperson and you went to work for a company and you took over a territory, and that territory was really struggling, right? And you had to go and reestablish relationships and regain trust of potential customers and come up with new and innovative ways to, get your customers to buy into whatever it is that you were selling. That to me is the story, along with, you know, you were able to drive revenue, you were able to post some numbers. If you ask AI to do that, all they're really going to do is describe what you do as a salesperson. They don't have the information or the approach of telling your story or why it's unique to you. And that feels a little bit standoffish in a resume. So we don't use AI in the creation of any kind of resume, but we do use AI here to study job postings that our clients provide to us, to identify what are the most required skills that they see comparing 2 or 3 different job postings. And then, you know, we'll say, hey, give me the top 10 keywords for these job postings. And then as a resume writer, we're making sure in a very organic way, we're integrating those top 10 keywords into the resume that we're creating. So if you compare a resume written by someone like us, who is actually listening, human to human, and creating a story, what you're getting is a completely different resume than what you're getting if you're using AI to actually write the resume. So do I think AI is going to replace resume writing anytime soon? No, I mean, not unless AI, comes equipped with human emotion, insights, understands human nuances, the ability to describe a particular kind of relationship or a particular kind of working environment. I don't think that's really going to be the goal, not for us or not for, a lot of people. Now, on the flip side of that, people were sort of excited about AI, and it can help you write a resume, it can help you get through ATS, and it can help you do this and that. Companies now don't like that. So now they're using these AI detector tools. And if you're a candidate who is consistently submitting for jobs using an AI generated resume, they're not interested in you. So whatever thought process that people had about making it easier to apply for a job using AI now is something that's sort of being counted against you. So that's where we are with AI and resume writing right now.
Looks like you really know how to do your job because you pointed out the differences between doing it by with AI and doing it yourself. But I want to ask you, how do you tailor a resume for different industries or positions? And how do you effectively highlight relevant skills and experiences?
Okay. So for the most part, you don't really have to change your resume for a different industry, right? We focus primarily on what we call the function of the resume. What job do you want to perform? So let's just say, for the sake of argument, that you are an accounting person. You're an accountant, or you're a CPA, you're a finance person. All of the things that you do as an accountant, and let's say that you work in the automotive industry, the function of your job, you manage the general ledger, maybe you manage the payroll, maybe you have a small team, you manage accounts payable, you develop budgets. Those are going to be universal functions, whether or not you're working in the automotive industry, the healthcare industry, the education industry, or whatever. The function of what you do is the same regardless of the company that you work for or the industry that you're in. So you don't really have to feel like you need to tailor your resume for a particular industry. Now, if, for instance, you are an accounting manager, but you're also interested in maybe being an F&I person, or you're interested in being, a finance person, or maybe you want to work on a mergers and acquisitions team, providing financial data so they can make, the best possible decisions. That's really where the tailoring would come in. And you want to tailor it in a way that helps your experience align not to the similarities, but to the differences of what they might be requiring. So if you're an accountant and you're going to work for a manufacturer, it's going to be a very sort of straightforward accounting resume, right? With your story, your accomplishments, how you've improved business, saved the company money, made the company money, created a team, integrated technology, anything that you would do in that role. Now, say you want to go to work in mergers and acquisitions, then you need to show me how it is that you analyze data, how it is that you take lots of financial information, and then you become an advisor to, say, a mergers and acquisitions team to say, this is a good idea to pursue this purchase, or this isn't a good idea to pursue this purchase. That would really be the only difference. So you always want to be looking at the function of the job that you're after versus the industry. And that's how you would make the tweaks based on the language and the requirements. Here's the other thing, just a little bonus tip. People that want to do all kinds of things, or could have 10 different jobs that they could do, they tend to be less successful in their job search, because unless you're really laser focused on the outcome, the type of role that you want, the kind of organization you want, the kind of function that you want to be doing, you're a little bit all over the place, and your experiences become a little watered down. Your impact becomes a little thin. So I think the most successful part of a job search, and into addition to a really, really good resume, is a true focus and understanding of where it is that you want to go. The people that have that tend to be much more successful more quickly than people that are just applying for everything because they think they can do that job.
Okay, thank you.
I was thinking, since we went into this tailoring the resume for a different industry, I was wondering, is there actually something we could do to make our resume stand out other than colors or formatting? Maybe what would be, let's say, like you said, let's say for an accountant, what would be the top three skills or 3 bits of information you should put there to make your resume stand out? Because at least to my knowledge, usually I've only seen it in movies when people get the resumes and they're in this bulk and just look at it, they throw it out. And so how can we get accepted, let's say?
Yeah, I mean, I think our secret sauce here really is about a couple of things. We ask our clients questions around transformation, innovation, impact. What did you do to make the company money? What did you do to make their processes better? How did you define your outcomes? What are you graded on your professional performance review each year? So the contents of your resume should never really be a description of your job. The contents of your resume should be the description of your performance. So since we're hooked on accounting today, if we have an accountant or a senior level accountant that we are working with, one of the key things that we want to ask them are things like, how have you been instrumental in leveraging technology to get better data and better outcomes as far as your financial controls are concerned, right? That is not something that you would normally have on an accounting resume, but it's incredibly important that people understand technology and technology tools and how they integrate that in their day-to-day job. So, accountants usually talk about general ledgers and budgets and that sort of thing. We kind of go a little bit further than that, and we talk about things that are different or interesting or that you wouldn't expect. Those are the best ways to stand out on your resume. Again, another thing might be, how did you save the company money? Accountants are usually responsible for providing financial information, but maybe they saw something in the bills that were coming in, or some of the budgets that they were working on where there were cost overruns, and then being able to make a suggestion to say, hey, I think we can cut this cost or that cost. And by the time you're all done with it, you might save a company $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 a year in expenses. Those are things that would make me call that accountant up, right? Instead of just telling me he's just doing accounting stuff. So anything that you can talk about or examples that you can give for things that you've done in your job that are different or unexpected, that's really where we start first.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next question goes like this. How do you suggest addressing a lack of experience in a particular field?
Yeah, I mean, look, we're talking to an audience of maybe high school students, college students, folks coming right out of college. Nobody has experience. When I graduated college, I knew how to skip class and play beer pong, right? I mean, I had zero skills. What I, learned in school, I could, carry in a purse. When you're coming out and you're trying to migrate into a corporate setting, you're a little bit lost. So here's a couple of things. We recommend to all of our young professional friends that they do as many internships as possible, except for your freshman year in college. So go to college, enjoy your time away. It's your first time away from home. If you're living away from home for the first time, you're going to make new friends. Life is very different. There's a lot of stress, a lot of pressure, lots of studying, lots of social engagement. Go and enjoy it. But starting your sophomore year in college, you should try to do as many internships as possible, whether those paid or unpaid or whatever the case may be. That's really where you're going to get your experience. Then you also want to make connections. You want to meet people. You want to connect with people on LinkedIn. You want to get business cards. You want to make friends. That's really how, for a young professional, you're going to be building your network. So that's really important. But no one really graduates with any kind of experience in that field because obviously, no brainer, you've just graduated from college. That doesn't mean that you don't have skills or you don't have experiences that can be valuable. So I always sort of, use this example. Let's just say for fun, you're a lifeguard over the summer, right? And on your resume, you want to put, hey, I'm a lifeguard. I patrolled the beach. I did this, yada, yada, yada. Everybody knows what a lifeguard does. If you saved a life, if you helped with a rescue, if you were selected for lifeguard of the month, that's the kind of stuff I want to see on your resume. You don't need to tell me what a lifeguard does. Everybody knows what that is. I'm looking for experiences and things that are unique to you. And that's how resumes end up being built in a very unique way, very genuine, very much around your story. So if I am a hiring manager and I'm hiring entry level, let's say for a marketing position, and I've got 30 people that told me that they were a lifeguard and described what it meant to be a lifeguard, but one person said to me, hey, I saved 6 lives this summer. I won lifeguard of the month for the month of August, and whatever. Who do you think I'm calling on the phone? Yeah, that's where I think we go wrong. And I think that colleges also, at least in America, don't do a very good job of preparing college students or young people for what the real world is really looking for. So that's why services like ours exist, because that's our business to know. That's what we do here. We make it our business to know.
Okay, so you say that it doesn't matter what experience you get into. It is more about the impression you make when you.
Absolutely.
Okay, I
Yeah,
understand.
I mean, everybody's going to have a job waiting tables. Everybody's going to have a job babysitting. Everybody's going to have a job working in retail or, working at the video store, working at the movie theater. It's the way that you craft that story and share your experience that the reader of your resume can see that you've gained some life skills. So say, for instance, you were working at the movie theater and every time a customer had a complaint, they sent them to you because you were really great. You were very gracious. You listened to the customer's point of view, and you sort of became known as the guru at the movie theater who handled the problem customers or the pains in the asses, right? That tells me something about you. So you want to make sure that when you're thinking about your resume and telling your story, what are those things that you're known for? That's what we want to see on your resumes.
Okay, thank you. I got another different questions. Not really different. It sounds like this. How do you handle explaining frequent job changes on a resume?
Okay, so I mean, it depends really on what the job changes were about. So, over the past 4 years with the pandemic, tons and tons of people have lots of employment gaps. We have clients that we've worked with that have lost their job 3 and 4 times over the past 4 years. So the best way really to do it is a couple of things. If you were in a position for less than 6 months, we recommend that you don't even put that on your resume unless something amazing happened while you were there for 6 months. So that's the first thing. Rule of thumb, anything less than 6 months, you want to leave it off of your resume. Now, on your resume, if you've changed jobs, say 2 or 3 times in the past, 3 or 4 years, you can put right on your resume, I took a new position for, a higher level move. I took a new position for more responsibility, or, I was moving, my family was moving, my spouse got a job in California and I moved from Texas to, get it. There's ways that you can explain it. It shouldn't be the focus or cause any kind of issue whatsoever to explain, but hiring as a whole really truly needs to be much more understanding of people having short-term gigs because what used to be a little bit more of a rarity, now everybody has them. That's what a global pandemic will do for you. It needs to, our perception of it really needs to shift. But if you can explain it in a way that is beneficial for you, make a little explanation on your resume and call it a day.
That's nice. That's nice. For example, since you talked about the skills, what would be some skills that we can actually end up demonstrating in an interview? For example, let's say that I want to change my industry entirely. What would be some skills that I could put on the resume so that I may actually demonstrate them in an interview and show those people that I'm the guy for the job, even if I come from a totally different industry. I have this um, I want to learn. I want to understand what the industry is about. I want to evolve. I want to give them a great employee.
Yeah, I mean, I think that especially for younger people, but this really holds true for anyone. The thing that will always supersede someone with perfect experience is someone with the right attitude. It's about a passion for the work, a passion for the industry. If you can communicate in an interview that you have such a passion for the work that they are doing, that you are someone who is adaptable, and your resume and your interview skills can talk about adaptability. So for instance, if you took a job as a project manager and you were in that job for 6 weeks and the person who was the project leader, the director of the project, or maybe let me backtrack. Say you were a project associate. You were just working on the project. You didn't have any responsibility to other people. And 6 weeks later, the project manager leaves and they come to you and say, hey, can you take over this project? Well, you've only been here for 6 weeks, but yet here you are. They dropped the project in your lap. So what you were doing as a project associate, working on tasks or components or pieces of the project puzzle, you're now leading it. That could be leading people. It could be scheduling. It could be managing a budget. If you can show that you've been adaptable in your history to taking on responsibilities that were outside of the scope of your job, that's universal. It doesn't matter what industry you've been in. Those are great things to focus on. So adaptability is key. The second thing would be the ability to learn. How quickly can you learn a new task? So for instance, I have, a really phenomenal team of resume writers here. Very educated. We've got lots of lawyers on staff. We've got PhDs, people with MBAs, people that come from a writing background. A few years ago, probably 7 or 8 years ago, we got an application in from a woman who was a PhD and she's a college professor. We have never had a college professor as a resume writer before, but she's so educated, so intelligent, so passionate about writing and telling people stories that we brought her on, and we thought, okay, we'll try out some projects. We'll see how you do it. Well, she killed it. She, hit it out of the ballpark. She did such a phenomenal job that we actually then started pursuing college professors to join our resume writing team. We have found that the demeanor, the ability to communicate, the ability to write eloquently, beautifully in a quick period of time is a skill that professors have. So those are the kinds of things that shift perception in the marketplace. So if you can convince someone in an interview that you're adaptable, that's going to be incredibly helpful for you both now and, in the entirety of your career. And then I think the third thing really is, I'll give you my top three. I always joke that, a fundamental of working here at Storeyline Resumes is a sense of humor. What does that have to do with, writing resumes? Absolutely nothing. I just want to be around people that like to laugh, that want to have fun, that have a great sense of humor, that aren't, stressed out, that aren't going to be, snipping with, their coworkers or, is that a requirement? Of course not. But from a cultural perspective, I think it's so important that you know what that company is like, what their culture is like. So if you are someone who is super, super outgoing and you love people and you want to be collaborative and you want to be in person, you're not going to go and apply for, going to be a fit for a job where you're working from home by yourself and not speaking to another human all day. So I think that you want to be able to sort of communicate, that cultural alignment for your personality and, how it is that you interact with other people. I think that's probably the third most important thing. I would much rather hire someone who's got those things, the real passion for it, the adaptability and such a pleasure and a joy to be around, and throw a little extra training at them, as opposed to hire someone that feels like a perfect fit, but maybe doesn't make me happy to be around them. So I think that, from a hiring perspective, personality and, how it is that you carry yourself, how you communicate, I think those things are probably more important than you think.
Wow. I noticed you are giving lots of examples. Have you, I mean, um, have you come across these events? Are they from your experience, these examples, or are you just making them out?
Well, no, as a business owner for 24 years, I personally have talked to hundreds of thousands of people and heard from hundreds of thousands of people. If you follow me on LinkedIn, you know that I have 1 million followers. My posts get viewed about 250 million times a year. So there's a lot of feedback and engagement and conversation, and folks share their job search stories with me, the good, bad, and the ugly. But as the person who owns a business and as a leader of a company and a leader of people, these are all experiences, that we've had firsthand, whether or not it's in regard to our own staff or whether or not it's in regard to our customers. So these are these stories that I'm sharing with you. I have 1 million of them. That's why I wrote a book. I have a book coming out in April. So I'll be sharing some of those stories in this book.
Okay. I want your honest opinion on including personal interests or hobbies on a resume.
Yeah, so personal interests are a no-no on a resume. So, there are a lot of preconceived notions and perceptions about people. In the United States, you probably know right now that we're a country in a really great political divide. In all of my 55 years, I've never seen a group of people or a country so politically divided. So let's just say, for an instance, that you were a volunteer for a Democrat candidate for your state Senate, and now you're applying for jobs, and you've got that on your resume, and the person who is reviewing your resume is a staunch Republican. I would like to believe that people are not using their own personal beliefs to make decisions about your ability to do a job or not do a job. But I feel like I can't believe that anymore. So, or my favorite example is, you are a person who loves animals and you've spent, lots of money donating to animal causes. But your resume lands on the desk of an HR manager and she hates cats. I mean, impossible, but I mean, could. How is she going to perceive you? So something that you've done from a donation perspective, it's not going to make a bit of difference as to whether or not you're getting an interview. But if this person hates cats, it absolutely might. So I want to stay away from sort of anything personal, what you do in your free time or, whatever on your resume. Unless it's really like a work related. Now, if it's a volunteer thing, you want to take the skills from that. If it's, something like if you played sports in college, absolutely include it. Those are, organized sports and, that's all good. But, if you want to put that, you love reading books and, walking on the beach, you could probably leave that out.
Well, thank you. Actually, I want to do a bit of a game, if I may call it that. Let's say I will give you 3 types of people. For example, like their jobs, what they like. Mostly, I think for this round, let's go with students and their interests, just to show students that you can actually get a skill from every little thing you do. From your perspective, I want to see, what do you think, like someone that has this X interest or Y interest, what skill could he or she choose to put on a resume? So let's say we have a kid that likes sports, likes football. Let's say we have a kid that likes to go to the gym, and let's say we have a kid that absolutely loves writing essays. What would you pick for those?
Okay, so for football, obviously you're going to look at things like collaboration, team building, being able to participate and win and lose together as a team, diligence and practice, time management, because when you play a sport in college or high school or wherever, it takes up a lot of time, but you also have chores. You might also have a part-time job. You also have to keep your grades up. So your time management skills are going to be incredible. The ability to manage, multiple things going on at one time. So that's the first thing. The guy that goes to the gym, personal excellence, dedication to health and fitness. It could be even if you're working at the gym or you're just going to the gym. Are you willing to help sort of train and coach people that maybe are having a hard time? Say you're working out at the gym and you're buff and you've got a great physique and you've done all the right things, but maybe somebody at the gym is struggling. Maybe they need to lose a few pounds. Have you motivated them? Have you mentored them? Have you offered to help or show somebody the right way to do something versus the wrong way to do something? Those are leadership skills. Those are skills and characteristics in empathy, in compassion, and, helpfulness. And then the third one, the writing of the essays, I will tell you that the ability to write, the ability to read something and then obtain the information, then to write an essay is extraordinary. We live in a very short attention span society. I was flipping through TikTok last night and I was watching an interesting video and she didn't get to the point fast enough and boom, I'm over it. Like I'm flipping, right? Like you guys are doing. We're flip. Like tell me what I want to see, just give me the punchline here. So if you're someone who can read a large body of information and then disseminate that into a story for other people, so your ability to explain, to train, to develop, to educate, those are all things that you would take from your ability to read something and write an essay about it. Now, say you're not reading anything and you're just writing an essay. Now you're looking at creative skills. You're looking at language skills. You're looking at influence skills, entertainment skills. You're looking at the ability to influence a perception. All very, very critical. So all the things that you're doing for fun, whether it's playing video games, playing a sport, doing a part-time job, but they're all valuable. There is experience and qualities and value and skill set that you can infer from almost anything that you do.
That's amazing. That's actually something that I've been thinking about for quite a while. And I find interesting that everything we do, we can take a bit something from there, a skill from here, and sort of it builds up, and it's really fun. And actually,
And
I
then
was
pretty
thinking,
soon it becomes a resume. Pretty soon it becomes you. It becomes your identity. It becomes a group of things that you are good at and that are unique to you. That's what you want to do.
that's really good. That's fun.
Okay, I want to tell you about an experience that I've come across recently. I have more brothers, and I wanted to write that into a resume. And the resume was for a company where that involves working in a team. And I wrote in the resume that I take care of my brothers, and I'm like a leader for them, and they actually accepted me. They actually let me become part of the team just because I have this leadership ability with my
I
own
love it.
family.
That is what you said here is exactly what I'm trying to communicate. Now, if you would have put that on your resume, maybe they would have called you or maybe they wouldn't have. But that is such a phenomenal example. So you're like really good at herding cats, right? You're really good at gaining cooperation if you've got little brothers that you're taking care of. You're really great at entertaining people, making sure they're safe and sound. That opens up a whole bevy of things that you probably never thought of as a young professional, right? But being able to take care of people, make sure that they're safe, make sure that they're entertained, get them all on the same page, out the door on time. That to me shows phenomenal skill. And I'm so glad that you put that on your resume, because that's exactly the kind of stuff I'm talking about, especially for young people that may not have a lot of work experience. But for me, that would be absolutely priceless. I love it. I'll share an example with you. My own daughter went to college in New York City, and she has a degree in literature, and she wanted to be a book editor, and she did. She ended up getting a job for a pretty big publisher in New York City, where she spent 10 years. Now she runs Storeyline Resumes. She runs the day-to-day operation of my business. But when she was going after an internship, and the internship was with a very world famous editor who had been responsible for editing a book that turned into a movie and then won like an Academy Award. And so there were thousands of people that had applied for this internship, and my daughter landed it. And you know what one of the things were that they were looking for? Waitresses. My daughter had spent her summers in high school and college waiting tables. And that seemed to me, it seemed to her to be such an odd kind of thing that they were looking for. But in that particular company, whoever was in charge of putting together these descriptions and hiring young people and interns, they found that people who had waitress jobs or waiter jobs were much better equipped to handle problems, solve issues, engage and interact with people in a team environment. And that was one of their criteria. They liked people that had waitressing and waitering experience in their background.
Wow.
wow, wow, that's really interesting. And actually, it's a curiosity. Have you ever come across a person that, for example, wanted to put something in a resume, or try to convince you that he or she did something that actually didn't happen? Because I was thinking, uh, theoretically, yeah, on a resume you could write anything. You can be anyone, and I think, yeah, that's why there's an interview after. Because if we only took it by what the paper said, everyone would be a CEO and whatever.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we try to build people up in terms of showcasing the value that they bring. We don't really oversell folks, because ultimately, we might create a resume for you that's not truly reflective of what your skill set is. And you might get some interviews, but you're not going to get a job offer. If for some chance you get a job, you're going to fail at that. Nobody wants that. So first and foremost for us, we're honest about what you're going to be able to do with your experience. You need to be honest with an employer for the stories that you're sharing and the results that you've been able to achieve. Our job is to take a lot of information and create a story that you can send to a potential employer to get an interview, to get a job. But ultimately, the truth of that story has to come from you. And it's your responsibility to make sure that whatever you're giving to us. So from a liability perspective, that's not going to come back on us, right? Because, we're not going to lie for you. We're not going to knowingly lie for you. But if you're personally lying on your resume, or you're, fibbing, or you're, claiming things that happened that didn't happen, we found out that, most of that stuff comes back to bite you in the ass. I mean, I've had situations where people have claimed that they have a degree, taken a job, and 6 weeks, they just had it on their resume, and we said, okay, did you graduate from here? And they said yes. Well, it turns out maybe they didn't graduate, maybe they were one semester short, but someone advised them somewhere along the way to put that they had a degree. We had an incident a couple of years ago about a woman that took a position, a very high level position, with a top 50 company in the United States, and 6 weeks later, they walked into the office, called her down to HR, and said, "You're fired. Hey, we verified. We called your college to verify, and they said you didn't finish," and she lost her job. So, are all companies verifying? No. Should you be honest about, what you have and what you don't? Absolutely. But from that perspective, you never really want to embellish things like that can be verified. That's a big no-no.
Wow, that
Not
sounds,
just in resumes, in life.
wow. that
Just
was something.
FYI.
Yeah, but look, how can I actually prove that I'm good as a leader when I wrote only the thing that I'm good with my family. I'm a good leader in my family, and I don't have actually a degree in this niche.
Well, look, for every person who has a degree in political science and now is a vice president of operations at a Fortune 1000 company, right? There's really no correlation between the two. So a lot of people have a lot of different kinds of degrees. They work in that field, they don't work in that field. The value of a degree is almost like anything else. It's about the experience of getting the degree. That's where you learn to adult. That's where you learn to meet deadlines. That's where you learn to work with the team, follow directions. You might learn some very tangible skills like a language or math skills, or whatever. Ultimately, it's about what you do with them. So for you as a leader, even though you haven't been an executive leader, but you've led your brothers in your family, that gives you leadership skills. Now, are you going to take those leadership skills tomorrow and go and be a CEO? No, but you're going to start off small. You're going to start off being an individual contributor. Then you're going to apply for a management role. You're going to supervise 2 people. Then a few years later, you're going to supervise 10. Then you're going to move into a vice president position, and then a director, and then you're going to be a CEO. All because you have this foundation of leadership and a passion for leading others. That's how people get to where they go. They pursue it. Nobody is standing around handing out promotions to people that aren't asking for it, right? You take control of your own career, leveraging the skills that you know and picking up different skills along the way. So I completely want to hear from you in 15 years from now, that you're running a company somewhere because you were able to get your brothers out the door on time for school.
Okay, you made me curious. Our job is to ask experts from different domains about their work, about their job. But I think we should have asked this question earlier. How did you actually started writing resumes and?
Yeah, I mean, so I actually come from a marketing background. I had a pretty good job in marketing. I was doing a lot of traveling. I had one little kid at home. She was, in kindergarten, and I decided that I didn't want to do that anymore. I didn't want to be away from her. I wanted to be home. I didn't want to be traveling. I was working very long hours. And so I started doing some marketing consulting, helping small businesses, with their marketing and their advertising programs, because that's really where my expertise was. And I have a degree in marketing and communications. And I was working for a company, and they asked me just randomly if I can help them write a human resources manual. And I've always been a good writer. I love to research, and I told them absolutely. And I found that I had a real passion for that. I love the idea of human resources, being a sort of a champion for employees and, their rights in the workplace. And I ended up going back to school. I didn't get another degree. I just went and did some training. And so I started doing a little HR consulting. And then it was just completely by accident that a friend of my husband's was an engineer. And he said, really having a hard time getting an interview. Can you help me write a resume? And I'm like, sure, because, I'd done lots of hiring in my career. So I helped him write his resume, and the first place he sent it, he ended up getting an interview and taking the job. And so he was sending his friends, and then people were sort of asking me to help with theirs. And then after a few months of this, my husband said, why aren't you charging for this? And so, back in the day, I think I charged $50 for my first resume. That was 24 years ago. And, that it really took off from there. And I just found that I had such a passion for it. And I love that everyone's story is unique to them. And I have met the most extraordinary people along the way, and I couldn't think of a better way to spend my life.
Wow, that's really valuable. I was thinking, you see, like I think, like I know, like a week ago, maybe I didn't even think that there was such a thing as, or a month ago, such a thing as a resume writer as a job. And I think this actually shows that if you're passionate about something, you can make a job out of everything. And we've seen that there are a lot of new jobs coming up, jobs that didn't exist 15 years ago, 20, 50. And I mean, do you think that this is going to impact how we land jobs, how many people are accepted, how many people are being laid off? I saw that in your recent posts, you were talking about this series of layoffs of 15,000 people being laid off. And this is a concern. Like, we know we live in a VUCA world, and it's this ambiguity, it's uncertainty. There's a lot of things going on.
I think that there's a lot of uncertainty more around the economy versus things like AI. So is AI going to replace some jobs? Absolutely. But the layoffs seem to be sort of stemming from the economic uncertainty of what's going to happen. People are starting to see the writing on the wall, right? We're in an election year. There's a lot of division in this country. There are, inflation is very high here. A lot of women, particularly, unfortunately, are exiting the workplace because, it depends on what you do for a living. You might be going to work just specifically to pay for daycare, right? So if you've got 2 or 3 kids in daycare, why not just quit your job and stay home with them? If you're in a traditional household, you have a husband or a partner who's working, a lot of people are choosing to exit. So we're seeing money coming out of the economy because those folks aren't spending as much money, but we're also seeing a decline in what people are buying. That tends to happen when people get scared about economic forecasts. So right now, the price of everything is high. I filled up my gas tank last week. It cost me $122. I stopped at the grocery store for a handful of things, and my bill was $308, right? And so, everybody is sort of saying that everything is a little bit more expensive. So they're kind of reining in their spending. That means all of the incidentals, UPS laid off 12,000 people last week. You know why? Less people are ordering stuff on Amazon. During the pandemic, we couldn't order stuff fast enough, right? We were, looking forward to those packages coming. People are being a little more cautious with their money. So that sort of resonates throughout the economy. It resonates throughout the hiring piece of the puzzle. People are being more budget conscious. So, but it ebbs and flows, right? That'll go on for another year. And, a year and a half from now, we'll be back to spending like banshees. But, ultimately, right now, we're definitely seeing a decline, and companies are being very proactive in sort of reducing their overhead costs so they can continue to sustain and grow their businesses.
Wow. I'm still shocked about that. 100 and what? 120?
$122 fill up my tank.
$122. Oh my God. That's a lot.
It's a lot. Right.
Wow.
I mean, I was completely on empty, and I sort of drifted into the gas station. But for a full tank of gas, that's what it cost me.
Oh yeah, the times are changing. And
They
actually,
are.
I actually want to ask you. I've heard this thing a lot. Like we usually hear it either from our parents or our grandparents, or we see it on the internet. It was better in my time. You didn't have to do this and this. You didn't have to change so many jobs. You didn't have to. Do you think that there's actually such a thing as the best time for something? Or is the best time just the present for everybody, or the fact that it's always changing and that we have to change with life?
I think that it depends on your personal situation, right? But I know that I definitely have a nostalgia for things past. But that's because of my age. You won't, not until you're older, have a nostalgia. Things will seem simpler, but things were definitely simpler back when I was growing up. So, like I was just having this conversation with my daughter who is now in her 30s, and we still say things to her like, okay, when she was going off to college, my husband, her dad said, Lexi, we want you to go, we want you to have a good time, but when you go to a bar, don't leave your drink on the bar. Dump it out, take it to the bathroom with you, have one of your girlfriends watch it because, you might get drugged and somebody would do something bad to you. That didn't really exist in my day, right? So every generation faces sort of different obstacles, and you kind of long for the time when things were simpler, when things were safer. I grew up in a very small town in Pennsylvania. I don't even know that we had a lock on our front door. I don't think we ever locked the door. People weren't like breaking in and, trying to kill you, right? Or, people weren't texting and driving and, running over you while you're trying to walk through a crosswalk, because texting and driving didn't exist. So I think that there definitely is, some desire to go back to a time where companies felt more loyal to you. You felt more loyal to them. I grew up in a time where your dad worked at a job, he worked there for 8, 10, 12. I have friends that dads worked for the one company for 50 years, right? That's unheard of today. Everything is very disposable.
Mhm.
Humans feel very disposable right now. And I don't think that's very comfortable for anyone. I was talking to a gentleman on LinkedIn right before we got on this call, and he is an educated person with a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. He has worked in the healthcare industry for 20 years. He lost his job 18 months ago. He cannot find another job. Now, this is someone who lived a very comfortable life, married with children, worked very, very hard, and did all the right things. He's ready to lose his house because no one will give him a chance to come in and take a job. Now, healthcare is an industry that is struggling to fill positions. So something is happening, something strange is happening why he can't get a job. But everybody who is intelligent and passionate, they should be given an opportunity. And we're not seeing that right now. That's a scary thing when decisions are being made on criteria that have nothing to do with your ability to do the work. And I think that people are sort of nostalgic for a time when you were judged on your abilities and not other things. And that to me is something that I would like to go back to.
Okay, Robin. I want to end this episode because we are running out of time, and I want to end it with a more profound question. Is it necessary to love what you do, or you have, or you or you just have to work hard to succeed in life, to achieve success?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things. Do you have to love and have a passion for everything that you do every single day? No. It's just like a
No.
relationship, right? Some days you're gonna love it, some days you're not gonna love it so much. But as long as there's a sense of fulfillment, you're happy doing the work, that's all good. Then you're going to have people that are only going to excel in situations where they are obsessed with the product, they're obsessed with the company, they're obsessed with, fine. Then there are the people that go to work, do their jobs, they do nothing more, they do nothing less. They go in at 9, they leave at 5, they never check an email, they never check in with their boss on the weekend. Also perfectly acceptable. Ultimately, I think it comes down to what is right for you and how it is that you want to live your life. We have shifted, I believe, quite a bit in this country, in the United States, away from the I'm going to work really hard. I don't care how long I have to work, how many hours I have to put in. I have a passion. I'm going to make the money. I'm going to do this. we've really shifted away from that to, I just want to show up. I want to do what I'm being paid for. I want to go home. I want nothing more, nothing less. I don't want to be bothered at night. I don't want to be bothered on the weekend. I want to have balance. I think both of those things are great. But ultimately, it's a choice that an individual makes. I've never lived that because I've always been passionate for the work that I do. So for me, it's a 24/7. I'm always in emails. I'm always doling out advice. I'm always answering messages. I'm here on the weekends. Of course, you can see I work from home. I'm here on the weekend. I'm checking in with the team. They do the heavy lifting. I'm sort of providing the guidance, but I love it. I don't want to be away from it. So it depends. That's the best answer that I can give you. It just depends on how you want to live your life.
Okay.
I see.
Okay,
Yeah.
let me get the puppy. Hold on.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh, the
God,
puppy.
that's amazing.
Wow.
This is Nero. Say hello.
Puppy, he's so big.
Say hello to the
Wow.
boys.
Our furry friend.
Isn't it cute?
He's
Okay,
gorgeous. Oh,
Go. My husband's making lunch downstairs. He's never been he's never been one to miss a treat. So he's running off to get a little.
Okay, Robin.
he's so
It's
cute.
been nice. The time we spent with you tonight. It was actually really cool. It was nice to meet you actually. Thank you for being here with us.
It was my pleasure. You young gentlemen are so impressive. Thank you so much for asking me. This was fun.
Thank you. It was fun for us as well. It's amazing, and we should probably catch up in like 6 years, see how things have evolved. That-
Have a
Okay,
nice weekend.
thank
you
you.
too. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Robin. Thank you for watching this episode. Thank you, Miss Robin. Don't forget to subscribe. Click here to watch the previous episode, and don't forget to rent that like button.